Hello and welcome. My name is Corey. I am going to be continuing my read through of Torchbearer that I've been doing. Uh, for this will be the second part. Part one is going to do a lot of the character creation that we've done so far. We're going to be wrapping up the character creation and continuing on from there through the Dungeoneer's Handbook. So we'll see where this takes us. And yeah, I so far my impressions have been positive. I am excited about Torchbearer Second Edition. I think this will probably be a good game for a dungeon crawl game that I'm interested in. Let us go see what is in here as we continue on. So here we are. It's time we paused a moment and looked around the table. Introduce yourself. The Game Master collects the character sheets and briefly reviews them, checking for any glaring errors. They then describe each character's stock, class, and perhaps offer a pithy comment about each character. Each player responds with a brief introduction or remark in character. The Game Master then inquires, how did you get into this mess? Here are some possibilities. Your dad died and this is all they left you. Your home was destroyed and you were driven out. They stole your gear from a friend, blah, 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 blah. The Game Master has the character sheets back, referencing the setup section and the adventure you're using. They give a brief pitch for the endeavor on which you're about to embark. Do the other members of the group know each other, or are all strangers? Decide for yourselves now. In most groups I've been in, they all decide that they just met up recently, which I personally don't like. I don't think that's a compelling story, but that's what's there. And I think this could be a little bit stronger if there was some better way to bring this together. That might be interesting. For example, in Blades in the Dark, you have a crew, so there's a little bit there. Yeah. Beliefs, creed, goal, and instinct, or belief singular rather. I'm used to burning wheel. There are 4 aspects to your character. Let's see what they are. So your belief is your personal philosophy. Invent a belief for your character and write on the character sheet. If you invoke that belief in play, if it guides your actions and gets your character into trouble, then you earn a reward at the end of the session. So very nice, very similar to beliefs and burning wheel. If your belief creates a crisis of conscience during play and you betray your own belief, you earn another type of reward. Very interesting. Your creed, so this is new for me. Well, there's a spot waiting for your inevitable creed. First level characters do not enter this world with lofty ideals. Correct. You will gain a creed should you reach 3rd level or make it to your first respite. Until then, try to learn about the horrors of this world to stay alive. I like that. Sort of like, one thing that I think Torchbearer does well is it breaks up your beliefs a bit more granularly in a sense. Like a belief is actually a belief, where in Burning Wheel it's usually something your character thinks and what they're going to do about it. So also the goal, which in Torchbearer here we also have a goal, which I like. Instincts are conditional statements. They allow your characters to take free action when they're triggered, so that's cool. If you have a good instinct, you can use it to do something for free. Very nice. You have an instinct like always keep the light lit. If you're plunged into darkness, you get a free test to try and make some light. Goals are goals. Their objectives framed as active statements. I will, I must, I won't. They're immediate. You could feasibly accomplish this session. They're not long-term dreams. For example, I will find out what happened to Jorah. I will be king one day is a bad goal. And don't write dumb goals like I will light a torch. There is no reward for accomplishing dumb or bad goals. Okay. That's a particular tone, but alright. Your characters start at level 1. Note your level and class benefit. So let's take a look at the outcast. That was the one we were looking at a little bit before. Outcasts may wield any weapon except greatswords. They may wear any armor, wear a helmet, and use shields. They grant +1 to camp event rolls in dungeons and dwarven made structures. Very cool. Okay. Your character does not begin the game with any fate points or persona points. If you want them, you have to earn them. If you lost a character to unfortunate circumstance or bring a new face to the group, transfer the deceased character's fate and persona to the new one, up to a maximum of 3 each. Okay. That's just like a nice little consolation prize, but alright. Give your character an appropriate name. You're fresh. Okay, and then away you go. So that is the ending of the character creation section there. Got some nice art with some characters on it that look kind of cool. That's the magician. This is the fighter, I believe, on the left here. We've got the outcast, the burglar, and then the thurge. So the only one that's missing is the ranger. What do we fight for? Okay, so it looks like, if I remember correctly from the table of contents, we're going to go read what is in the descriptions of what we just did for our character. What did we just do? What did we just create? So this, I think, will outline how the character actually works. So your belief, what do we get for your belief? So here's some stuff on writing beliefs and playing them. You get to decide what your character believes. They are what. Think about what drives your character. What is your character's higher purpose? Try to distill it. It should be written in first person or specifically about you. So, for example, I'll keep our spirits high so good things will happen to us. Or so good things will happen to us. Wrong enunciation. I must help my comrades consider every angle before making a decision. I do not like that belief because I don't like tabletop role-playing games where there's a bunch of dithering. That is my least favorite thing in a tabletop game. Your belief is a powerful tool. It tells everyone at the table what your character is about. Fulfilling beliefs. Let's see what we get for if we do it. Sometimes you reach a point with a belief where you feel it's not important anymore. This is a very nebulous point. So you can change your beliefs at the beginning of an end or a session. That makes sense. Challenging beliefs. In play, it is your responsibility to invoke your belief. Well, it's the game master's job to present obstacles that challenge that belief. It's also up to you to stand up and fight for what your character believes. If the game master presents a challenge and you fail to take the plunge, the onus is on you, not the game master. For deeper, richer play, tie in other characters and their beliefs. Carolina's belief is that she must protect her friends from harm. The game master targeting Baron in combat is an opportunity for her to stand up for what she believes. Very cool. Your creed is a statement about your place in the grander scheme. Okay. So, for example, the world must burn for the crimes against the Dungeoneer. Okay. You get it at level 3, it looks like. Writing them, make grand sweeping statements. You will earn rewards for playing your creed, and when invoking it causes you to come in conflict with your belief, goal, instinct. It's not a reward that comes often, but when it does, it is a powerful moment. It may not be changed session to session. So you can change it after big things. A supernatural or cosmic encounter. Your goal. It doesn't talk about what rewards you get. I want to know what the rewards are. So a goal is what you want to do. Some nice details here on how to do it. That's good. A goal must include one of the following imperatives: I will not, I must not. I like this a lot. It helps lay out what we're doing with writing these. A goal includes an action like these: find, stop, return, rebuild, demonstrate, protect, feed. A goal is not an immediate or simple action. You can't do I'm going to make a pie. It's not appropriate. Goals like I will bring peace to the land are unsuitable for play. Something you hope to accomplish in your next foray into the wild and dark. It's based off this scenario presented by the game master. So you can do things like, I must drive out the evil that has overtaken this place. I will track this trail to its source. I will loot this place for all it's worth. Playing goals, once they know what they want you to achieve, then they go through obstacles in your way. Makes sense. Looks like it's just talking more about the goals. New goals. At the end of the session, you review your goal. If you accomplished it, change it at the start of next session. And then instincts. They're different. It's something that your character does as a gut reaction. When you trigger an instinct, you get a free roll to accomplish it. This instinct does not advance the grind. So we haven't got to the grind yet, but that is going to give us some more context when we get there. But in a game like Torchbearer, having something for free is pretty powerful usually. When acting on instinct, you can muster wises, traits, and rewards for your effort. You can only accept help from someone who is also acting on instinct at the same moment, or who has a nature descriptor that directly applies to what you're doing. Good instincts. If your instinct triggers and your action has a measurable benefit to your friends, you earn a reward at the end of the session. Writing instincts, so some good examples is always prepare a good meal when we return to camp, always map our progress when we camp, always identify the capabilities of new creatures I encounter, always look out for Carolina when dungeoneering. Bad instincts include things like always win, when in trouble, always escape, never do the wrong thing. Using instincts, it's up to you to invoke them. Challenging instincts. Instincts are very powerful and there's terrific incentive to use them. Therefore, the game master should build situations that trigger instincts but get the characters deeper into trouble. For example, we've got a nice little one. Let's read this. Let's see what's here. So for this one, we've got Harold and Cisneros are in a bad way. They've just lost a brawl with some hobgoblins and are making a hasty exit from the room. However, they can't help but notice the vainglorious goblin chieftain is wearing a gold medallion around his neck and has a scroll case tucked into his belt. Harold has the instinct, never leave a piece of gold behind. Cisneros has the instinct, always take the magical treasure for myself. Since they are a pair of quintessential murder hobos, their players, Dro and Merrill, inquire innocently. As we're getting pushed out of the room, can we rob the chieftain? I consider their instincts for a moment and then decide it's a fair call. They can help one another gank him. A simple health test versus his nature will do, since they're not trying to be subtle. What could possibly go wrong? Great question. What in the world could go wrong in that situation? Let's see what we got here. It's hard to write the perfect belief, goal, instinct, or creed. Rather than belaboring, workshopping, drafting, and rewriting, we invite you to throw down an imperfect solution and see how it feels in play. Yeah, so I like these. In Burning Wheel, your beliefs, instincts, and traits are so core to who your character is. Like that's really where you start, and that's where you always return to. in this, it feels like these are even a bit, they're a bit less broad, but they give you a bit more refinement and direction. So you've got your belief, which is nice and general. You've got your goal, the thing that you're going to do, your instinct to give you some benefits, and then a creed, which seems to be once you sort of get the hang of things. And let's read about the different abilities. So we've got will. This is your mentally resistant skill. You've got a bunch of skills that use it. Health, it's your strength and fortitude. Makes sense. Certain level benefits can increase the ability's maximum rating from 6 to 7, so it sounds like they cap out at 6. Cool. If you don't have an appropriate skill for a test, you may roll will or health at a penalty. Total up the dice for the ability, wises, help, supplies, and gear, then divide that by half and round up. Then you get to add traits, persona, nature, fresh, and any other special or magical bonus dice. Using beginner's luck is the first step to learning new skills. That's in a later section. We've got resources, so this is how you buy stuff. You can get extra dice for having the hometown advantage. What else do we got going on here? Your resources can get taxed. So it looks like you get taxed by the margin of failure. Very similar to Burning Wheel again. So whenever you want to buy stuff in this game, you don't count the money on your sheet, you roll for it. This is a role-playing game, which a lot of role-playing games tend to involve rolling dice, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Roll to see if you can get the thing you want to buy. Treasure and cash, I'm not going to worry too much about that. And then we have our circles. This looks interesting. Circles represents how well connected we are. It's right from 1 to 10. 1 in town, test circles to find another character who might help. So these are the get help factors. So if you're trying to hire a porter, a sentry, or a guide, they're 1, 2, or 3. Laborer, got some obstacles here. Finding another magician, that's tough. A blacksmith, so like, very cool. And then finding an ally, interesting. So it looks like it has some guides for how to set the obstacle. So if you're successful, you find who you're looking for. When you fail a circles test, you can use twist and condition as normal, or you can use a special twist called the enmity clause. I like this one a lot. This is also in Burning Wheel. Basically, you get to bring in an enemy when they fail a roll if you want. So dramatic. You can change enemies to friends and friends to enemies based on how you treat your allies and opponents. And then there's precedence. This is your social standing. I'm not too interested in that right now. And then there's might. This serves as your measure of heroic stature. So what's going on here? So like precedence, might also affects the type of conflicts you can successfully engage in with creatures. So you can capture creatures equal to or less than your might. Okay. You can attack and kill creatures whose might is 1 greater than yours. You can drive off creatures whose might is up to 2 steps greater, and you can flee from any creature. Oh, okay, and then they give you a scale. So you can drive off creatures who are up to 2 steps greater. So you start as level 3. So you can drive off ogres, trolls, and young dragons. But dragons and hill giants, you just have to run from. You don't have an option. In addition to determining what you can and can't kill, your might grants a substantial bonus. +1 success per step of might greater than your opponent's for all successful or tied actions in kill, capture, and drive off conflicts. So if you are stronger in might, you get free successes. Interesting. Okay. Nature. So this is an interesting one. I think we might read this one a bit more, I don't want to say in depth, but take a bit more time. This is the one that relates to if you're a dwarf, an elf, a halfling, or a human. And it's always interesting how, well, sometimes it's not interesting whatsoever, but it's been interesting so far in Torchbearer to see how they handle this, because it can be handled really poorly sometimes, and sometimes it can be okay. But I guess we'll just have to dive in and see. I don't know what my expectations are for nature as we dive into it. My hope is that it's come up with something cool which allows you to play with dwarves, elves, and that kind of stuff in a way that is refreshing and doesn't feel beaten down and repeated. And it's more engaging. More engaging than, haha, the elf and the dwarf don't like each other. Right? That's boring. We're so far past that. So let's see. Halflings, we already saw what natures they can have in the previous part. You never want your character's nature to rise too high or fall too low. It's important to strike a balance. If it drops too low, your character is strongly affected and becomes unlike other people of their stock, perhaps too thoughtful or too fixated on ideals. Whatever's happened, you become an outsider. If your nature rises too high, your character becomes too much a part of their culture and quits the life, retires, and fades away. So that is interesting. You can play into and away from your nature that is brought to you from a broader group. I like that. I do find that interesting. The fact that there is movement on that is interesting, and the fact that there are ends of the spectrum that represent, like, oh, I don't play into my nature, or oh, I am so far into it that I'm going to retire from being an adventurer. So far, so good. We do like to see it. You may use your nature to help another character if that character is making a test associated with your nature descriptors. Okay. Let's see what the example is here. You're playing an elf contesting with an ogre. It's your nature to hide from it or distract it with a song. It is outside your nature to fight with it or even confront the ogre with an intimidating shout to drive it away. When overcoming an obstacle in the game involves one of your descriptors and you do not have the skill in question, you can roll your current nature rating instead of a skill. And you roll the full one rather than half. This is not beginner's luck. If you have a skill rated 1 or higher that's similar to your nature descriptor, you must roll using that skill. Your training gets in the way of your true nature. So if you have the thing, you have to use it. You can't get the best of both worlds here. If you'd like to benefit from having both skill and nature applicable to a role, use the channeling nature rules. It's a very powerful combination. We haven't got to those yet, but we will see what's there. Oops. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Acting outside your nature. So if you do something that is not covered by one of your nature descriptors and you don't have the proper skill, you can use your nature as a reservoir of strength. You make the test. However, if you fail, your ability is reduced, a process we call tax. Okay, so if you use it when it doesn't apply, it's going to get taxed. If one of your skills has been reduced to 0, but your nature is not, you may test nature in place of a reduced skill. Okay. And let's see what the channeling nature is. Your character can channel their inner strength to perform a heroic act. By spending a persona point, they add their current nature rating dice to their will, health, nature, or skill rating dice for one test. Okay, so you can add it on top of it. So Paul's burglar, Tarvis, must sneak past a group of kobolds in a cavern. It's a life or death situation, so Paul channels Nature 5 into the test. He adds 5 dice to his 4 and rolls a total of 9. That's pretty good. Persona points are described later. So that's quite strong. That more than doubled the dice on that test. You had to spend a persona point, which in Burning Wheel, those are rare and expensive. Not that rare. Like, you get a couple per session. And then channeling within your nature. If you channel your nature for a test that fails within your character's nature script, there's no further cost. But if you do it outside, you get taxed by the margin of failure. Okay. So, margin of failure. Even if you succeed, your nature rating is temporarily reduced by 1, so you get taxed either way. This is some very cool art. Right? The expression on her face is quite evocative. So taxing, blah, 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 blah. When you tax your nature, note that, blah, blah, blah. So if you get dropped to 0, we'll see what happens. If your current nature rating drops to 0 due to tax, one non-class trait of your choice is immediately changed to a trait like pariah, odd, fated, or something else. The level remains the same. After you earn the trait, reduce your maximum nature by 1, erase any tax, and lose any advancements. If you reduce your maximum to 0, there's another section. If you get down to 0, 0, this is the end of your adventure. So this is a way for your character to be done with. If you go completely out of your nature, there's nothing left for you, which I do find interesting. It means that if you're going to play this game, you have to play it with a certain amount of respect that for this system, that you can't completely divorce yourself from who your character came from and their larger culture, which is interesting. Very interesting. It is Tolkien-esque in that sense. I think I would have to play this to really get a sense of how it works and if it executes well. It does seem like it does execute well, because it's going to get you to do this and that. Do a little bit of it, but balance it. So you get both, and that kind of feels a bit like Blades in the Dark, where if you pick a crew of cultists, it wants you to do cult activities, for example. This is one of the things where it has an opinion about how you solve things, and that's good game design. It is interesting to see this paired with stock. Yeah, my conclusion is I'd have to really play it to see how it feels. And then you can recover nature. It looks like there's 4 ways to recover it. We're not going to worry too much about those. And then you can advance it. If you go up to 7, your character becomes too rooted in their life. Dwarves retire to the mountains. Elves journey west. You become... You've leaned into it so much that you become what it is. Mm-hmm. Let's keep going. Let's read the elf one. Singing and remembering are 2 oft overlooked aspects of elven nature. However, these aspects are very potent if applied creatively. Singing is not mundane music. It is magical ability. It can be used to overcome anger or fear and to enchant the unwary with wonderment, befuddling their wits. Remembering allows elves to recall ages past in a scholarly manner, but it also grants them access to a well of grief. Memories of tragedy from other ages that can fuel their wrath and passion in the present. By far, the most practical use of remembering is to recall the details of an area when navigating without a map, or when helping cartographers draw one. However, don't let the elves make up too much remembered nonsense. When they want to recall something that hasn't happened in your game, make sure it fits with your setting. If it does, write it down. Now it's a fact. Reincorporate it later into another adventure, and you'll enrich your world. If the elf player reaches to incorporate every possibility into their nature, be firm and say no. Okay. And it looks like it goes over some descriptions for the other ones too. So that's nature. That's nature. My impression is that like I still have hope that it's going to execute well. And I think for me, I would just need to try it and see how it works. For me, I'm probably going to be GMing this game the first time I play it. I would want to do it as a player, which is kind of like a thing, you know? It's going to be very different as a player to experience what nature is. Okay. I'm distracted by my phone. Let's continue on and read about skills. Interesting. We're 70 pages in, 72. There's about 250 pages, although I'm imagining a good chunk of it is reference material. We'll see how far we get through this. So skills. You can have 24 skills. They go from 1 to 6. Factors. What is this? Ban is an alchemist. He wants to brew an elixir for his friend Vantus to dispel his exhaustion. The factors are exhausted 3 plus counts as a recovery 1 for an ob-fort test. So factors are just how you build up the obstacle, it sounds like. Suggested help. Tools, supplies, and gear. I'm not too worried about that. Supplies are going to give you bonus dice. Gear gives you bonus dice. Learning a new skill. Once you use beginner's luck, note the skill you attempted to use on your skill list. Don't put a rating next to it. Put an X instead. Check off one of the pass or fail bubbles. It doesn't matter which. You need to keep a record of how many times you try to use that skill, so fill an additional bubble each time you try to use it. Once your characters attempt to use that skill a number of times equal to their maximum nature rating, they earn the skill at a rating of 2. So your nature determines how quickly you can learn. The closer you are to an adventurer, the quicker you learn, And the closer you are to your elfness or your dwarfness, the longer it takes to learn these adventuring skills. That's neat. I do like the way that works. Let's keep going. Okay, wises. So that's the gist of skills. You roll dice, you see if you succeed. There's some other things going on with them. A wise is never tested. It's always used to supplement. You can have up to 4 wises. A wise can be used once for test for one of 3 effects. So let's see what those effects are. You can use I am wise. You get +1 die. Or you can grant aid in the place of help. Thus, you aren't impacted by conditions, although not twists. You cannot use help and use I am wise for the same test. Okay, just some other stuff. Deeper understanding. You can spend a fate point to re-roll any single failed die on a roll related to your wise. When using deeper understanding, you exclaim, aha, and indicate that you understand everything now. You can use that to further see if you can succeed. You cannot re-roll a die that's already been re-rolled. If you roll a 6, spend a fate for a luck point, blah, blah, blah. You may not use deeper understanding to re-roll that worm. Okay. And then you use the of course one. So you spend a persona point to re-roll all failed dice on a test related to your wise. Okay. It can be used in conjunction with the other reward expenditures. So your wises give you a lot of dice potential. Okay. Gaining wisdom. Each time you use your wise, mark how it was used on your character sheet. You can use it to pass a test, fail a test, deeper understanding, and of course, once you've done all 4, you get to choose a perk. So this is an advancement for your wises, which is very neat. The idea that there's advancement here is cool. You can change the wise to a new one of your choice. You can take a beginner's luck test towards opening a new skill, very cool. Or you can take an advancement, pass or fail related to the wise. Okay. That's some cool advancement. That's cool. I like it. I'm digging this. And then we already saw about the languages. Traits. Let's see what traits are all about. So level 1 traits can't grant an additional dice once per session, twice per session for level 2, and then an additional success to each tied or passed test associated with the trait. Okay. Ooh. There's a phenomenon with traits that we call reaching. It's a situation when a trait clearly doesn't fit, but a player is working really hard to convince the group that it'll work. This behavior is not creative, it's just short of begging, and it's certainly always bull. If you feel a player is reaching, tell them so. Give them a moment to readjust. If they don't have anything better to add, then move on. The trait doesn't apply. That's a good little blurb. There's a lot of parts of tabletop games where the reaching thing, it comes up, let's just say. Yeah, anyways. Ooh, using traits against yourself. You can suffer a -1 dice penalty. You can give your opponent +2 dice, or you can break a tie in your opponent's favor. If you do this, you get a resource called check. You can spend checks to make rolls during the camp phase. That's interesting. So if you use your traits against yourself, you get a resource for later. And then you get 1, 2, or 2, depending on what you do. And then you can spend checks. You can share them. You can use 1 trait per test, for or against you. Each class has a trait associated with it. The trait may be changed or modified through play, usually during a respite. If the trait is lost or changed beyond recognition, the character retires and becomes either townsfolk or a reclusive opponent of the remaining characters. Vantas experiences some grim visions during his adventures. When his nature bottoms out at 0 to 4, the Game Master alters his class trait, touched by the gods, to touched by dark gods to reflect his experiences. And if that gets changed further to the point of being beyond recognition, that's another way you can retire. That's interesting. Let's read this little blurb. What's going on here? Woo. Using traits against yourself is a key aspect of Torchbearer. It's about role-playing. It's about making bad decisions for questionable characters. So true. Our character is imperfect at best, and that makes them appealing. All of the great heroes have flaws: pride, hubris, fury, and even incompetence. Using traits against yourself allows you to demonstrate your character's quirks and foibles. It makes them vulnerable, and counterintuitively, it makes them more likable. This is good narrative design. Narrative design built into reward systems like this is like, chef kiss. It's so good. We love to see this. I, as a player, would feel so good using my traits against me to get rewards like this. Okay, and then we have inventory. Oh, some nice art. The art in this book is good. Kudos to the artists. They did a good job. Let's see, what time are we at? So I am going to wrap up here, I think. We're going to do a raid, but I'm just going to keep chipping away at this in these read-through formats. I'm going to put them up onto YouTube as I take a look through them and that kind of stuff. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll hop into this inventory section next time, and I hope to see you there. Ciao.